You never know who's going to need something, and that's going to be that viral video. I always say virality isn't a strategy unless you have the right systems. But that's would be my concept in regards to why those videos do so well, is because there's finally some substance. We're craving some substance on these social media platforms that are all about how to make 30K here, 100K here, 6 figures there. Here are my 5 tips. People do crave that humanized content too.
This podcast is brought to you by Penji. Penji is a creative subscription service that gives you access to pre-vetted, agency-trained creatives from all over the world. From graphic design to illustrations to social media management and web development, it's all included for one monthly price. It's time to say goodbye to the hassle of searching for top-notch creative talent. With Penji, you get quality and consistency delivered right to your inbox every day, carefully crafted for you by humans. So meet your new creative team today. Head over to penji.co for more and enter the coupon code located within the podcast show notes. Welcome to #Ad by Penji, the podcast where we discuss everything influencer marketing. We'll talk tips to help assist you in your influencer journey and so much more. I'm your host for today specifically, Jonathan, Penji's influencer coordinator, and I'm joined here with a very special guest, Sofia. Sofia, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, Sofia, for those of the people that may not necessarily understand or know of your brand, could you tell us a little bit more about, who you are and the type of influencer marketing or niche that you usually focus on?
Yeah, so my name's Aguilar. I am Colombian, born and raised. So I am an immigrant here in Canada, now a permanent citizen. But I always start with that because a lot of people on my platform are actually, new to this country. And so I show them the opportunity model of what I do and who I am. I started my business 8 years ago. I always love to introduce myself like that because I have a lot of immigrants or newcomers, and I just love to show the possibility model, that not everybody has to look a specific way to be this so-called influencer. I'm also a multi-passionate creative. I started my business 8 years ago as a dance instructor, so I used to teach Latin dance, and that's actually where my influencer journey started, even before I knew this thing existed, or even before this was even a thing. This was, me just partnering and connecting with like-minded individuals who either had a product or a service, and they loved what I was doing, and they just wanted to kind of use me as a representation, essentially. Now, as things have grown, I've sold everything from shampoo to skincare products to fashion to technology to job applications, Volkswagen, car dealerships, you name it. I've been a part of some incredible campaigns. And now I run a marketing agency myself where I get to kind of play all the roles. I still do the front end of brand partnerships, but I also teach influencers how to get those brand partnerships. And also on the other hand, help brands find, the right influencers for their brand as well. So I do a little bit of everything. I love creating content. I love the strategy concept, but I think the influencer landscape has evolved so much with UGC, so much with front-facing and faceless. So I just love this topic of conversation. I'm just excited to kind of give my tips, give my value, and really encourage people to dive into this landscape as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point in the world of marketing, if you don't have any type of faceless or any type of entity that you can stand behind to be able to promote whatever it is that you're trying to do, I think that business is going to die personally. So let's start from the very beginning. You obviously started in the world of dance. How many pieces of content were you initially doing? Where did you start to see it hit a growth, like an exponential amount of growth where you start to feel a little bit more confident to dive a little bit deeper in other areas?
Yeah, so back then, I remember setting up my phone and talking to my camera and everyone looking at me like, what is this girl doing? And back then, again, people weren't as open as to it now. Like if somebody just pulls up a tripod, you're just like, oh yeah, just like drinking water, just a regular thing. And so when I had started, I was a little bit nervous because I wasn't sure how much to share and how much to talk about. And I didn't realize that it wasn't about what I was doing. It was about who I was as an individual that people wanted to know about. So I began with sharing anywhere from, at that point, when they say caterpillar stories, like I was the type of person that had like 30 to 50 stories a day. Like I would showcase from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to bed, what I was putting on my hair, my face. And I would just bring people along because, like I said, I was just involving people in who Sofia, the brand, was. And I think that's really what allowed me to understand who my audience was, is that I would share so much that I started to see more people gravitate towards, let's say, my faith or the dance or what I was doing. So I started to put people in buckets. But at the beginning, it was more so I was just doing the funny content, doing the talking head, doing the education and the value. And it was really all over the place. But I love that because I didn't have any restrictions to who I was being. I could just be myself and brands would pick me up because of that. But also just in general, that genuine connection and that community that I was able to build. When I started, I had anywhere from like 1,000 to 2,000 followers, and I have 36.8 now. And it just continues to grow. It's been I wouldn't say a slow growth, but it's been a sustainable growth. I've never just woke up overnight and hit 100,000 followers and it stayed there. It's been a constant nurtured community that I've had for all these years.
Nice. All right. So obviously we're trying to build a recipe here. So in the very beginning, you had your aspects of, 50 whatever pieces of content per day. What number do you feel like you hit where people started to recognize? When I say number, I mean like follower count. What is the follower count that you hit where you started to recognize, okay, people are actually give a crap about what it is that I'm trying to say and what it is I'm trying to promote and do?
I think follower wise, I was probably around the 8 to 10K range. That's probably when I had already started to build that leadership and authority figure that people were coming on my page and recognizing not only the face, but the value that they begin to receive, right? So I would say by that point, people were taking me like more seriously, like I was a legitimate content creator or like an influencer. And don't get me wrong, were the 30 to 50 posts a day sustainable? No, that was the only thing I was doing back then. But I would say, I always say you start like a funnel, you start large and wide, and then you slowly bring it in. So I love that, we're going through this recipe because it takes time to build it, but it takes time to also understand what your audience loves, and that consistency is important.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my next question, believe it or not, which is going to be like 50 pieces of content today. Like just hearing that gives me stress, anxiety, and I want to just like go curl up in a ball and not talk to anybody. So like, obviously you had to hit the grind and the hustle, in the very beginning. But now in terms of content, like how do you think about content now, being a successful person doing this for a living for the most part, in addition to your agency? But how do you think about content now, and what would you recommend for other people to do?
Yeah, so I see content creation now as more so a documentation. I've always seen it that way, but I could never pair the word together. But I see it as, you're documenting. I've also developed a framework, which is 30 days of content in one day. So that's actually how we started with our clients. And now it's just something that, I share across everywhere, is working smarter, not harder. So choosing one day, batching all of your content and not having to worry about it for the rest of the month is a recipe for, as an influencer, as whatever you're trying to, sell, success, because content creation is it's a muscle, right? At the beginning, a video might take you 30 minutes to make, an hour to make, maybe even 5 hours. And then slowly it'll take you, 5 minutes. I just filmed that. Perfect. I know my angles and all that. So now sustainably, I would say I film twice a month. One day I do all if I have brand partnerships or deals or anything that's more, I have to follow some sort of concept and script. And then the other days I focus more on my content themes and verticals, which is who my brand is, who I am, what I'm teaching, what I'm educating. But it has to work around something I put in the brains of everybody, like, this is a part of your daily method of operations. For me, this is a business. This is who I am. This is what I do. So content creation is a part of what I do. My phone is set up with a tripod all the time just to gather clips and B-roll, right? So I've gotten that into a habit because I know that I document. I don't just sit and say, okay, I'm going to create a video. I'm taking snippets of everything that I do in a day and filming it and making it into content.
Yeah, that's fun. So when it comes to the content as a whole, it seems as if that the 8 to 10K mark, and I think one of the biggest things that the takeaways that I'm learning from you is that you have to run it like a business. So what is the system that you're currently using? And again, I know that there's a downloadable thing that you teach in a course that I would love for people to be able to take part in, and all of your links will obviously be in the show notes for people to partake in some of these things if they choose to. But I'm a systems person myself. So do you use a Google Sheet? Do you use Notion? Like, how do you track that and know what to do? Because I don't know if you can see behind me, there's actually a tripod, and there's also I'll go this way. Yeah, there's a tripod and then also a teleprompter, right? So what does that usually look like for you to be able to say, okay, 30 pieces of content, I need to bang this out in an hour or two, and these are all the things I need to do and say?
Yeah. So funny enough, I'm only an organized and a systems person when it comes to my content or my clients. Other than that, there's no systems involved. But for this one, I knew that I had to develop something that my brain wouldn't overcomplicate the process, because it isn't complicated unless you make it, right? So the steps are research, right? So I often say, again, for me, I do this every single day. I research 10 to 15 minutes a day. I'm looking at what is the industry standard? What are things happening? I make sure that I'm intentional with my scroll. And so I save into a folder on Instagram all my sounds, or I send them to myself and say, inspo for education, or inspo for BTS, or inspo for client, recap video. So I do that 10 to 15 minutes every single day, and put it into, yes, a Google Sheet. I have a content calendar that's available for everybody to download. And they're able to, input the link, the inspo, their script, right? So I don't create scripts for myself now. I'm just kind of like an off a whim kind of person. And then I cut and edit. Obviously, I've been doing this for a while, but teleprompter is a great way, and scripting at least your hook or what you're going to say, or like I like to say, the meat of the concept. And then, you take it from there. You have all of your research done. You implement all your ideas and strategies through a mind map. So I also have the mind map there that helps you put your ideas somewhere. Because the thing is, when you're in your business, you don't see these ideas and these concepts. Or when you're in the space, those don't come up until you start, you start activating that muscle. So put it all down. Once everything's put down, I choose a day, and I book a studio or I book a time for 2 to 3 hours to film all of that content. Once it's done, the system is, it gets uploaded into a file. From that file, I either have my editors work on it or I do it. Then it goes into an edited file, and then it's ready to post and revise. So everything has its step and it's calculated. So 1, you're not missing the process, and 2, you're really working on a sustainable habit each time. I research, I put it down. From when I put it down, I organize it into themes. From the themes, I film, and then when I film, I post.
I think that's a brilliant strategy, and congratulations for you for figuring that out. I think when you run your business and you're just all over the place, number one, stress and anxiety are severely increased, at least the chances of experiencing those. But when you can feel confident knowing that, hey, I just recorded a piece of content, it took me, 30 minutes or an entire day, and then be able to have a system and somebody's, I think, a reliable team that is going to be able to take what you did and then do whatever it is that they need to do. I think that's really, really important. How long did it take you to find a reliable team to be able to do that?
I still haven't. I'll be honest with you. Finding a team is like finding a needle in a haystack. I have been, in and out of offshore platforms. I found local talent. There's just always something. And I think, we can blame outside people as much as we want, but usually it comes down to the leader and the business owner. Also, talent is everywhere. resources are endless. And now with all these AI platforms and platforms like yours, it almost makes it easier for us as business owners to say, oh, I don't have to hire somebody and I could just use something within, right? So I'm still exploring. I have 2 reliable people right now for the past 2 months that they've made my life so much easier. But as you grow, you look at what you need and what you don't need. And I wanted to touch on what you said about anxiety. Our brain needs a feedback loop, right? So like what we need is to like complete something in order to get that like gratification, right? So that's how it works with the content. You notice even when people react to it. And that's how I built my system around trying it multiple different ways and saying, okay, that absolutely did not work. I feel super anxious and stressed out, and scrolling for a whole day is unsustainable for me. Or something like, I can't film every day because I need to do emails. I need to just live my life and be off the phone and not have, that consistent eye strain, right? So I've developed that system and that team because of what worked and what didn't work. Yes, it's trial and error, but it's also a feedback loop of like, how does my body feel doing this? How do I feel more anxious? Was I actually more productive doing it this way? So yeah, that's what I kind of look for in my team as well, is like, did they stress me out? Did they make my life easier? Did they allow me to be more productive, and vice versa? So
yeah, I mean, that's huge. Definitely a lot of growth from a business professional. I think that's like when you've not necessarily made it, but when you've been through the weeds and been through the shit, those are the types of people that I like talking to, because like, you got some scars underneath all that. So that's
so many scars.
That's always good. So now you have the recipe is this, right? So now we have a good understanding of what you did in the beginning. You got to a certain level of growth and you grinded, right? And now you're being a little bit more strategic. So there's 2 more things that I would like to kind of brush up on. Is number 1, the analytics aspect. How are you looking at analytics to be able to make strategic decisions? And then we'll end with partnerships, right? And what does that usually look like? So let's start with the analytics, right? You just created a piece of content, restart, reset, refocus. Kind of talks a little bit more about the business aspects and the means of developing content strategy. Let's just say that's out for a week, right? And it does complete crap, right? It doesn't do anything. Do you delete it? Do you create more content like that? Do you ignore the noise and continue to do the exact same thing? Like, where is your brain at when you're looking at your analytics for every single post that you make?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely sucks when you create something and you're like, oh, this tanked. Like, there's been so much content that I've worked so hard on and I've seen it do absolutely horrible. And there's been content that was so effortless, like my friend shoving a piece of lettuce in her mouth, and it was like a 10-second video, and that went to the millions. And it's frustrating as a creator because, I mean, for me, I focus on high quality visuals. So why would something with the highest quality, highest sound, highest video go here versus the other content kind of go through the roof and go viral? And how I like to think of it is that there's different consumers on this platform. And who consumes that will give me more of like that feedback of what I need to create more of. For me, I focus on like the quality consumer, which means that they're going to watch my video, maybe not engage. They're probably just watching through it, but they really value those high quality concepts. And I still keep creating. You know what it is? It's like you just keep going. And you analyze. Yes, I go through my analytics often, but there's different ways of measuring the analytics. And I think that's what I want to get to that question is there's different ways of measuring your success or your analytics on social media. Yes, the metric shows you your reach, your engagement, your impressions, which are super good to follow. But what about your DMs? What about how many people saying like, wow, I really needed this, or thank you so much, or, the conversions that happen and the conversations that happen in the DMs? Because I did a 5-part series, and like you're mentioning that last reset, refocus video, and it did not do well. Like, it's all under the 5Ks, and it's upsetting because the ratio to follower to views to comments does not add up. But how I saw those videos, they were nurturing videos. They were videos of saying, look, here I am, here's what I do, I am an authority figure, here are the conversations I'm willing to have. And sometimes those videos are needed to then have those higher style videos. But I leave them. I don't delete my videos. You never know when someone is going to, scroll and keep scrolling. That just forms it. Like it's one of those things that you start forming that tough skin and you no longer care about the views or the comments. You just like reset your strategy, if anything. Okay, I did a lot of B-roll videos this week and it didn't do well. Let me do a talking head one, or vice versa. Lots of talking head video last week, lots of long form consumptions. Let me try something shorter with a message on the screen.
Yeah, that's cool. I think in order to have that emotional like unattachment, it's like really hard because you are the brand. Yeah. And at the same time, you have to treat yourself like a product, right? Yeah. Where it's like, hey, I'm a person and I'm a human and I receive DMs and I receive negative and I receive positive. At the same time, be able to go to sleep and have like a fresh approach to be able to say, oh, well, what happened yesterday was yesterday and this is today. Is that very similar to like your mindset?
Yeah, I think about like product-based businesses and how many products there are out there, right? And not everyone's going to like this shampoo or not everyone's going to wear this foundation. People have different approaches and different likes and dislikes. So it is a level of emotional attachment. But sometimes I look at the video and I'm like, guys, do you think I'm bad? Like, am I ugly? Like, is my messaging just not okay? So I do get in my head sometimes, but I think the concept is that, you know who you are, the value that you bring, and that it is an oversaturated like people that are viewing, and sometimes you can blame it on the algorithm that your content isn't zooming up to the front of people's explore page. You just keep trying, like you don't give up. And yeah, it is a business, so it's hard because my views are dictating on do brands want to partner with me and all that. So I do look to that, but I also have to root myself, like stay grounded and be rooted in the fact that it's not all about the numbers, and that there is that conversational aspect that the outsiders don't see, that's still where I find my fulfillment and that I know I'm doing great still.
Yeah. Quick tangent. I have a couple of faceless pieces of content for men's health and wellness and things like that. Content is like very much so workout, nutrition heavy, all that other fun stuff. It's going moderately well. And then all of a sudden I made a piece of content that was like the darkest shit that you will ever see. It was like super dark. I don't even remember exactly what it was, but it was just like, I don't know, I'm going to test it. I'm going to try it. It was dark. And it ended up getting like 2.5 million views on Facebook Reels. And it was like, again, I'm like, why do people like this? And so like, I had this theory of what a Facebook or like a social media algorithm was. And then it completely just threw it to the curb the minute that I made that video. And it ended up becoming viral because I'm like, here's this thing that I thought would make sense. Like, this is what I think people would like. And then this is something that I didn't think people would like. So my brain is like all over the place. And this is why we have podcast episodes with people like yourself, because what works for you and what works for me and what works for everybody else is completely different. And so we have to listen to a little bit of nuggets of information from you to be able to take with us, so that we can also be as successful as you are throughout our journey. With that said, did you want to add on to that?
Yeah, I think, to your concept of that video, I think at the end of the day, what we're all looking for is some level of human connection on this social platform. And that's why some of those videos we notice might do better, because our brains and we're just over consuming these tips and these educational things. And then what we forget is that there's a human behind there with an emotion that also wants to connect with you. And that's one of the 6 human needs, right? We crave that connection. We crave that stability. We crave, I heard it was Ed Milet and Tony Robbins that were talking about this. And so that is why sometimes you'll notice that content so unrelated and like you said, dark. And sometimes it's a sad piece of content, but people want to be able to be encouraged, connected in that human emotion. So sometimes that's why I always say you can shift your strategy, because you never know who's going to need something. And that's going to be that viral video. I always say virality isn't a strategy unless you have the right systems. And so that's a whole nother topic for another day. But that's would be my concept in regards to why those videos do so well, is because there's finally some substance. We're craving some substance on these social media platforms that are all about how to make 30K here, 100K here, 6 figures there. Here are my 5 tips. People do crave that humanized content too.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I think like the 100K mark is like that number that a lot of people resonate with. And I see that you use that as well as like a benchmark of success, which is, I think you said a lot of really good points there. Last point that I want to make, because I know we're going a little bit over, but some really good stuff here. Brand deals, right? So when do you think, was that 8K, 10K number of influencer of followers? Was that when you started to get the brand deals? And if so, like how would you recommend to a person that's starting out to choose the right brand to ultimately work with?
So when it came to the brand deals that I was getting at the beginning, like I said, it was more so related to like lifestyle, health, and wellness because I was dancing. So I had a smoothie company reach out to me and say, hey, I want to give you like a whole smoothie for the week. You try it out. We'll pay you to do a story and, talk about it. Then you get a code. And I was like, oh, this is great. Like, I love smoothies, love juices. And at that point, like I said, I didn't have a lot of followers. And what I like to say now, I do decline a lot of brand partnerships because they're not aligned. You need to know what you're representing and what your values are. So the best way, whether you're a faceless account, you're doing UGC, or you want to do every brand partnership, that's cool. But you want to get really specific with who you are, who the brand because at the end of the day, you're representing the brand, but the brand also represents you, right? So what you're attached to is really important. That's important for me. That's one of my values. And if you don't mind, then reach out to everybody. The worst thing that can happen is that you got to know, right? Or that now you're on their radar. And so, there's multiple times that I then pitch to people and they said, hey, not right now. Your follower count is too low. So what I would focus on is, perfect. Let me continue adding that value. Thank you for the feedback. Build the connection. Ask them questions. I do have a pitch template that, I provide in my course and a media kit as well, because the main thing that you want to do is build some sort of portfolio. Even if you don't have a portfolio or any experience, create it for yourself. Right now with UGC, you can pick up a lip gloss and take a video of it and put that as a part of your portfolio. If you're going out to eat, document you going out to eat. If you want to partner up with food and restaurants, if you want to partner up with hotels, like give a brand a reason to want to work with you, whether you have 2,000 followers, 10,000 followers, or 100,000. What I'm noticing is that more brands are looking for that micro influencer because they're focused on community and quality, and they're not focused on like, oh yeah, the 100K followers and views. They want a nurtured, smaller community because they understand the power of that. So cool. I went on a tangent there, but all in all,
that's huge.
Knowing your values.
That's huge. I really like the idea of like, if you're not there yet, create something as if you were, and then be able to show people the uses that you ultimately can do, like your range, so to speak, your editing skills, your storytelling aspects. That's a lot of really amazing information. Well, Sofia, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate your education. And if people wanted to like and subscribe and follow and all that other fun stuff, could you tell us where people can ultimately find you?
Yeah, so I have a website. It's www.sofiaaguilar.ca. My name is spelled Sofia with an F. So you can find me on Google, YouTube, LinkedIn. I do have a podcast called the One of One Podcast. We dive into less strategy, more so personal faith, and that aspect of business and how I started. So you can tap into that more. And then I also have obviously my Instagram, where I do share a lot of resources to how I started, how I've been growing, and where I'm at. And then I'm focused on LinkedIn as well. So you can find me on there at Sofia Aguilar. And when I do speaking engagements, I post them all on there. So if you want to catch me live and in person, then that's kind of the best way to find out where I am.
Cool. Awesome. And all those links will be in the show notes for people to follow and click on. Sofia, thank you again for your time. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
You've been listening to #ad, brought to you by Penji. Check out the show notes to learn more about today's guest. And to learn more about Penji, the human-first creative subscription service, head over to penji.co. And if you're still listening, it would mean the absolute world to us if you were to share this podcast with a friend and, of course, subscribe.